So as some of you may know from my many different videos and clips, I love solving Rubik's Cubes. In fact, I've been solving them for 3 years and I'm actually quite fast, like able to solve it in under 20 seconds fast. Now what's the point of knowing how to solve a Rubik's Cube if you have no way to compete with other people to see who's the best? And that's exactly why the WCA was invented. WCA stands for World Cube Association, and they hold competitions all over the world every day that anyone can compete in. They hold competitions with the normal 3x3 Rubik's Cube, bigger cubes up to 6x6 and 7x7, smaller cubes, random cubes that aren't really cubes. Trust me, I've said it many times, I don't understand how this is a Rubik's Cube, but someone made it, named it the Rubik's Clock, and that is now how it's an event in the WCA. And even solving cubes one-handed and blindfolded, which I cannot do yet. Now, I've been to a competition before in Albany, New York in August 2021, but during that time, I sucked. Very bad. There were forgotten steps. I'm ready. Oh, shoot, I don't even know what I was doing. Mess ups. Oh, shoot, I just messed up. And even DNFs, which stand for did not finish, aka a penalty for doing something wrong. Oh!
It's a DNF, I'm sorry.
Yep. So at this competition, I did very bad, getting 60th place out of 68 people. My average time for a 3x3 was 41.61 seconds, which may sound good, but compared to the top 5 people that had times under 10 seconds, it was pretty bad. My goal for that competition was to get into the top 40 to move on to the second round, but that didn't happen. So for the next 10 months, I practiced and practiced and practiced as hard as I could until another competition was happening close to us. And one happened. A competition was happening in Rochester, New York called Rock the Cube 2022. The different events they were doing was the normal 3x3, 4x4, 5x5, cube, and clock. I knew how to solve all of these puzzles. I was going to say cubes, but this is not a cube. But I didn't think I was fast enough to enter 5x5 or clock. So I entered 3x3, 4x4, and cube. I barely practiced ahead of time for cube or 4x4 because, like I said, my main goal was to make it to the second round for 3x3. Plus, this competition had an extra 7 slots open to make it to the second round, so I knew I might have a chance. So this is kind of going to be like a vlog video, except I'll be explaining everything since I forgot to do that in the video. So I don't have a ton of videos of what it looked like inside the college where we were at, because I was more focused on just getting ready to solve for the competition. However, I do have videos of each solve for each round for each competition, but until we get to that point, while I'm explaining what happened, I'll just be showing this video of me solving Rubik's Cubes. So right as we walked in, the first noise you heard was this. I felt like shouting out and saying, "Brothers and sisters, I'm home!" It just felt amazing because no one really understands anything when I'm doing stuff with Rubik's Cubes, and now I could be around nerdy people that understand it just as much as me. But anyway, we walked in and they gave me a sheet of paper that looked like this. It tells me the times for which each competition started at and which round I was going to be in. So at 8:30 in the morning, Cube was going to be starting. I was going to be in round 5 and I'd have to judge in round 1. At around 9:30 they'd start 4x4 and I was in round 6 for 4x4 and was scrambling for round 2. And at 10:45 they were going to be getting 3x3 and I was in round 2 and running for round 4. Now before I continue on, I should explain how the WCA system works. If you already know how it works, skip to this time in the video, but if you don't, it's really important that you watch this part so everything makes sense. The way most of the common rounds and competitions work is you do 5 solves on your Rubik's Cube, whatever the Rubik's Cube is for that event. Then you get your time in AO5 format. The way they get this average is by getting rid of your best and worst time, then averaging the other 3. That time is then your average you get for the round, and that is what you score on the scoreboard. Now the way you solve your cube is you walk up to the scrambling table with your cube, and then you put it in the container with your name on it. Then you go sit in the waiting area. The scramblers then take your cube and scramble it with a computer-generated algorithm and give the same algorithm to everyone's cube. That way it's all fair and no one gets an easier or harder scramble than anyone else. Then a runner will come and take the container with your scrambled cube and bring it to a table where a judge is at. The judge then flips the container upside down so you can't see the cube, and they will call out your name for you to come to the table. Then they'll pick up the cover and you get 15 seconds to look at your cube to figure out how you're going to solve it. After that, you set it on the table, put your hands on a timer, and once you take your hands off the timer will automatically start and you can start solving your cube. After you're completely done solving your cube, you can put it down on the table and stop the timer with your hands. Now the way I just said it made it sound like you peacefully sat down and calmly put your hands on the timer, but that is not the case. Then your judge will write your recorded time on a score sheet and you have to sign it. This process repeats 5 times to get your 5 solves for your AO5. Now it's like this for most competitions, but sometimes if you have a cube that takes longer to solve, they will only let you do 2 solves unless your time is fast enough, then they will let you do the other 5 solves. For example, at this competition, if it took you more than 1 minute and 10 seconds to solve your 4x4, they'd only let you do 2 solves, and then your average would actually be the best of the 2 solves. But that is how you solve a Rubik's Cube in the WCA. Now on to the vlog-ish part of the video. So like I said at the beginning of the video, I only have one video showing what the entire place looks like, and this is after most people left for the lunch break. But you have all of these tables in the middle, and this is where you sit when you're waiting for your group to be called or for your event. And then on each side of the room, there are stations where you can solve your Rubik's Cube. There is Station A and Station B. And then there's chairs behind those, and that's where you're waiting when your group is called, but you're waiting for your turn to solve your Rubik's Cube. So my dad and I sat at this table right here, and there's some other people too with us. And one of them actually kind of comes into the story later on. So once everything started, the main staff gave a tutorial on what you have to do for new competitors. I already knew what I had to do since I went to the Albany competition. And then they called groups 1 and 2 up for Scube. They'd have a group at A and a group at B going at the same time, and I had to go up for group 1 since I was judging. But I did my judging, and then I warmed up for Scube back at the table we were sitting at. I had about 15 minutes until my group was going to be called, so I was practicing a lot and making sure I was ready for Scube. Later on, they called groups 5 and 6. I was in group 5, so I went over to the waiting area and got ready for my name to be called to solve my Scube. I was so nervous. This was my first time about to solve a Rubik's Cube at a competition in 10 months. And the last competition, I did horrible with so many fails. So I was so nervous. I walked up to the station I was at. The runner brought over the container, flipped it upside down, and I didn't get to see my Scube. They lifted the cover, and I took part of the 15 seconds to inspect. And when I was done inspecting, I put my hands on the timer with the Scube on the table, picked them up, and started solving. And then I got one of the best times ever for Scube. 10.16 seconds. That was actually my personal record. I have never done this good with Scube, and that was my best Scube solve for the entire competition. So now I'm just going to show the video from each round. This is the second round, and it was pretty normal.
Number 5.
For this round, I got a 12.52, and then here's the third round. When I'm inspecting for this round, you'll notice that I paused for a second, and it's because when they lifted the cover for the cube, it was halfway turned, so it kind of confused me a little bit.
Michael 4.
For that round, I got a 13.34, and then the fourth round. This round was almost a very bad round, and it could have completely messed me up. And you'll see why in just a second. Right here, in the middle of my solve, you'll notice my hands change, and it's because the center piece on the Scube popped out, and I was having problems with this earlier in the day with it falling out, and it popped out, and it's very hard to get it back in, but somehow I got it just at the perfect angle that it popped right back into place. It was out for like a quarter of a second, and I just continued on. For the rest of the round, you'll notice I was super nervous, and it caused me to get a 15.82. But now here's the fifth and final round. Ready. For this round, I did really good again, and I got a 10.56, which was the second best. So for them to calculate my average, they got rid of the best and the worst time, and then they averaged the 12.5, 13.3, and 10.5 times, and it gave me an average of 12.14 seconds. Now, to get into the second round for this event, you need to be in the top 16 since not as many people joined, and I thought I was going to do really bad, and I was fine that I was going to do really bad because I didn't practice at all, like I said, for this. But I actually did pretty good and got 23rd place, which surprised me, and I was really happy with that. But compared to the person in first place that got 3.14 seconds for their best time and a 4.0 average, it wasn't amazing. Next up was 4x4, and I already knew I was going to do terrible at this because I had next to no practice. I wasn't nervous at all because I already knew I wasn't going to do good, but it took a very long time to solve this. So that's why I'm going to be playing funny dramatic music and putting in edits. Yep, I totally just added that clap in to make me feel good. Now that took me a minute and 35.94 seconds, which may sound good for a 4x4, but I'm actually a whole minute slower than the people in the top 3. Now I'm not going to bore you and show you my second solve, mainly just because I don't want to have to spend another 3.5 hours making edits on it, but here's the 5-second long version. And that one I did slightly faster. I got a minute 32.09 seconds. So I did a little bit worse than Scube. I got 35th place out of 48 people that joined. And there was no second round. That was the only round. And if you were in the top 3, then you got a prize. Now I didn't get to do 5 solves with this because both my times were over a minute 10. And if you couldn't get one solve faster than that, then you weren't allowed to do the other ones. So they just took my best time and used that for my time on the scoreboard. I didn't get an average. And now it was time for the main event, 3x3. I was the most nervous I've ever been because this was the most important thing. I've practiced for so long for this, and my only goal was to make it into 48th place or better so I can make it to round 2. I was in group 2 of 8 for 3x3, so that means there was no time I could look at to see what I need to beat to be in the top 48. Which was good and bad because I didn't know how fast I need to be, but it was less stress because I don't know how fast I need to be. But anyway, I went up for my first solve, and somehow this solve was a really good solve even though I was extremely nervous. I'm ready.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Eight seconds.
I ended up getting a 20.48, which was more on the fast side for me, so I was really happy with that. and I was really hoping I could have gotten that the rest of the round. Then it came time for solve number 2. I wasn't as nervous now that I had done a solve and was more warmed up.
8 seconds.
This was actually the best solve of the round and a really fast time for me. I got a 19.23, and I've gotten faster than that before, but this was still a really good time. And now for solve 3, I knew I was doing pretty good. I didn't have a single time over 20.5, and that made me feel less nervous, but it also made me more nervous because I felt like I need to get times under that.
That's me.
Yeah, right here.
I'm ready.
Now, I don't remember exactly what happened, whether I got a bad scramble or something went wrong during the solve, but I got a 24.77, which was a lot higher than the other times, and it really made me nervous. Now, for my 4th solve, I was really nervous. I think I was really nervous for the rest of the time. I can't exactly remember, but I knew I had to beat 24 seconds, because if I didn't, my AO5 would be really bad.
Alex, hand top 3.
Jack Ryan, 5.
Ready.
That was actually around my average time. I got a 22.74 for that round, and that was not good but not bad. All my practicing before then was about this time, so I was happy with this time because it wasn't a 24, but now it came on to the final round. For that solve, I got a 24 seconds flat, and I wasn't really excited with this, but I knew it was better than 24.7, so I knew my average was going to be around 23 seconds. So I picked up my cube when I was done and went back to the table my dad and I were at, and I looked on the WCA app. Yes, they have an app. And my times were instantly up, and I looked at my average, and I got a 22.41 average. I was pretty happy with this because things could have gone a lot worse. Since I was only the second group out of 8 to go, I was in 20th place and was making it into the second round, but there was still 6 other groups to go, and we had to sit for about 25 minutes watching to see if I'd make it into the second round. So before I continue on to tell you if I made it into the second round or not, I gotta tell you about some stories and things that happened while we were sitting there, because it is kind of cool what happened. So there's another kid and dad at the table we were sitting at, and we actually had around the same times and averages for 3x3. So at this point, we were really hoping both of us could make it into the second round, and he got an average of 24.96 seconds, and his best time was 21.1 seconds. And I'm not exactly sure how we started talking, but there was someone else who came over with a bunch of different cubes, and he was showing us this one cube he had. He had a 9x9 Rubik's Cube and let me use it. This was completely insane to me because my biggest Rubik's Cube is a 6x6, and there's technically no official events for 9x9 because it takes too long to solve. But somehow I was actually able to solve it. It was halfway already solved, but I was able to do the other half and solve it, which was kind of cool. He was telling us about his 3x3 times, and he has almost the exact same times as me too. So now there was 3 of us, all hoping to get into the second round. About 15 minutes later, it came time to keep looking on the app. There's about 10 people left to go, and I looked, and I was in 44th place. At this time, the other kid who was sitting next to us made it to 49th place, and he didn't have a chance to make it to the second round. So then he started hoping that me and the other person at the table would make it to the second round. And then one person was left to solve. I was in 48th place, and the other person who brought over his 9x9 was in 49th place. So I was the only one left out of us that could make it to the second round. It was very intense, and we could see the person solving the Rubik's Cubes from across the room. I actually got a screenshot from my phone while we were there showing that I had a chance to make it into the second round when I was in 48th place. They went and did their final solve, and then we refreshed the app, and it was very sad. They were just slightly faster than me, and it caused me to bump back into 49th place, ruining my chance to make it into the second round. There was really no reason to stay at the competition any longer because I wasn't in 5x5 o'clock, and since I wasn't making it to the second round of 3x3, there was nothing else to do. So Andrew, the kid who had the times that were around mine, and Carter, the person with the 9x9, we all said goodbye to each other and we all left the competition. And I was really mad after that. And who knows, maybe one time we'll all be at the same competition again and we'll all make it to the second round. So I may not have made it to the second round of 3x3 again, but trust me, WCA, you better watch out, because me, Andrew, and Carter will be coming back and we'll all be making it to the second round. You know, third time's the charm. Watch out.